Good morning. So the next panel, I'm going to moderate this panel. This panel discussed the national level approaches from Malaysia and Korea and Estonia, how they are securing the critical infrastructure, critical information infrastructures against from the cyber terrorism and also a variety of malicious actors. So with that, I would like to introduce our panelists. We have a very good panelist lineup. Mr. Zahri Yunos, COO from CyberSecurity Malaysia. He is Chief Operational Officer from the CyberSecurity Malaysia, which is a division under Ministry of Science, Technology and Information, MOSTI. They've been a very active member of AP CERT and being a bridge between Asia Pacific to OIC and all this region. So it's great to have Zahri here. And next panelist is Mr. Shin. Mr. Shin is a Vice President from the Korea Internet Security Agency, KISA. He's responsible for cyber attack prevention issues, personnel and enterprise services for the public and private sector in Korea. Recently, he developed the zombie PC remediation system, which is another best practice, one of the best practices of the bot cleanup program. So it's great to have Mr. Shin on the panel. And last, we have Mr. Jaan Priisalu. He's a Director General from Estonian Information System Authority. He is also a co-founder of the Estonian Cyber Defense League, with over 15 years hands-on experience in dealing with the cyber criminals and state-wide cyber attacks. He is considered to be one of the world's leading experts in defending both critical infrastructure and information assets. So with that, we have a great lineup of the panelists. In this panel, I'd like to ask each panelist to have 7-8 minutes to talk about their viewpoints and how they're approaching national level approaches to protect the critical information infrastructure. And I'm going to ask one question to the panelists, and I would like to open the floor for the questions from the audience. So with that, I would like to start from Zahri.
Thank you very much, Yurie, for the introduction. Can I have my slides, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me to be part of this conference. And I'm very happy to see, some familiar faces here. Is it on? Is it okay? The slides. All right. Oh, over here. All right, when talking about cyber terrorism, right, interesting topic, threat to the critical national infrastructure. Before we talk about cyber terrorism, right, I think we must agree two things. We must agree that terrorism exists, and we must agree that, the use of ICT, by the terrorists, to do certain acts. In terms of terrorism, right, I would like to bring your attention on the definition from the legal perspective, right? And if you look at here, from these two definitions, one is from Malaysia, and the other one is from, Australia, in terms of ICT perspective. If you look at the definition here, right, attacks on the critical national infrastructure is classified as terrorism act. If you look at the definition here, for example, from Malaysia perspective, an act or threat of action within or beyond Malaysia, among others, designed or intended to disrupt or seriously interrupt with any computer systems or the provision of any services directly related to communications, infrastructure, banking or financial services, utilities, transportation, and other essential infrastructure. So this, if you look at the definition, these are the critical national infrastructure, the one that provide critical services to the nation. Right. This is definition on cyber terrorism. This definition is from Professor Roti Idaning. She has testified in the US House Armed Services Committee, and currently she's teaching at the US Postgraduate Academy in California. She said that cyber terrorism is a convergence of terrorism and cyberspace. That's the first one. It is generally understood to mean unlawful attacks. Remember, unlawful attacks. And threats of attack against computers, networks, and information stored therein, which is target. When done to intimidate or coerce a government or its people, again, is target. In furtherance of political or social objective, which is, in my view, is motivation. Further, to qualify as cyber terrorism, an attack should result in violence against persons or property, or at least cause enough harm to injure fear, which is impact. Attack that lead to death or bodily injury, explosions, plane crashes, and so forth would be an example of cyber terrorism. And serious attack against critical infrastructure should be acted also as cyber terrorism. It is, the illustrative, from the definition from Roti Idaning into this framework. If you look at this framework, right, it gives you a better understanding on what consists cyber terrorism. It must have target, it must have motivation, tools of attacks, domain, method of action, and impact. And all of these components must be there in order to say that certain act is an act of cyber terrorism, the factor N. It is from Malaysia perspective in terms of how we define critical national information infrastructure. In all, we have about 10 sectors: defense and security, transportation, banking, finance, health services, emergency services, and so forth. So in terms of definition, we define critical national information infrastructure as an assets, real or virtual, systems and functions that are vital to the nation, that their incapacity or destruction will have a devastating impact on national defense and security, national economic strength, national image, government capability to function, and public health and safety. This is an illustration of interdependency that exists within the critical infrastructure. If you look at this diagram, level 1, level 2, level 3, it's basically to show that, we are interdependent, meaning to say one sector falls, another sector will also fall. Next, please. Threats to the SCADA systems. We have heard yesterday, about SCADA system. And as you know, right, most of the critical national infrastructure use SCADA system, especially in the energy sector. And what I've shown here, the vulnerability points that currently exist. So if you are a terrorist, simply you will try to attack this SCADA system so that we are able to get in, infiltrate in, and damage the critical national infrastructure. Why would they prefer to use ICT instead of using the usual methods of assassination, guerrilla warfare, and bombing? Simple. The second bullet there. Meaning to say that, successful attacks on one critical system can have cascading impacts on the others. The interdependency that exists that I mentioned just now. Next, please. Right. If you look at the, study that has been conducted by many researchers, these are some examples of what terrorists do. psychological warfare, they use the ICT for publicity, data mining, social networking, and so forth. But one most critical part, next please, is the use of ICT to conduct cyber attacks. This is the one that we are concerned. I have a few slides here, a few video. It is not really cyber terrorism, but it is, a real example of someone who is able to get into SCADA system.
We staan hier in de file, uiteraard. Ik had niet anders verwacht. Maar de laatste keer met de NS vermijd ik liever de trein. Ik heb hier een live verbinding met de verkeerscentrale van de ANWB. Dat gaat via een open channel. En daarmee kan ik dus de verkeersborden beïnvloeden. Hier, ze staan nu op 50. Maar we rijden nooit 50, dus ik maak er 5 van. Kijk. Zijn de mensen niet blij mee? Dat is er toch een beetje blij te maken. Smiley. Als ze daar niet vrolijk voor worden. We zijn hier uit de auto gestapt. We staan nu langs de snelweg. Jullie hebben de matrixborden gezien. Maar hier kan ik wat meer tekst op kwijt. Ja, daar komt ie. Ik denk dat ik toch wel een schouderklopje verdiend heb. Dat gaan we even als volgt doen. Komt-ie? Het leukste is, als mijn foto op zo'n bord terechtkomt. Dat ben ik. Staat hij er? Staat hij er?
As a conclusion, right, in Malaysia, what I want to share with you that we do have a national cybersecurity policy implemented in year 2006 with the objective of to protect our critical national information infrastructure. And in Malaysia, we are quite lucky in the sense that we receive full commitment from our stakeholders. We have several committees that look after the protection of our critical national infrastructure up to the Prime Minister level. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Yurie, for your kind introduction. My name is Shin from Korea. I work at Korea Internet Security Agency, CERT also. I am here today to share the experience on operating HoneyNet and honeypot system and talk about the challenges and new approaches we need. I'm going to talk with this topic today. The trend of cyber attacks has been changed. The motivation of cyber attack evolved simple interest to political and financial issues. Also, the hackers are spending so long time to target the system. Until success, they take persistent and secret and complex methods. Also, the levels of damage can be measured as individual to enterprise and nationwide. In 2011, there were several cyber attacks in Korea. One of them is March 4th DDoS attack, targeting major 40 websites of Korea, including government-side, presidential house, and financial organization, and internet shopping mall. Police authority concluded that this cyber attack was for the purpose of political issues because There was no money request from hackers. And the targeted system includes many government organizations' websites. The other one is hijacking the personal information of 35 million of people. Hacker attacked a domestic famous social network service company in Korea, which company have many valuable personal information. For example, the email addresses and physical addresses, social security numbers, and mobile phone numbers. To achieve this, the hacker attacked the specific software updated server and injected malicious code to that server. Lessons we have learned through this case is the importance of managing and technical security about the employees. Using free software is prohibited in this company by the policy, but employees did not follow this policy. The second one is hackers know more than we know, and what can we imagine? In general, a server was hacked and injected with malicious code in the server. Every computer connected to that server must be infected by malicious code. But certain fishes belong to that company was infected by the malicious code because the hacker knows the exact range of IP addresses belongs to that company. So we regard this attack as a cyber attack, APT attack. This is our structure of honeynet systems. Basically, we exposed the vulnerable computers to the internet. No anti-software, no security patch. We have this kind of system in two places. One is in Korea, the other is in Singapore. The purpose of this system is to collect internet worm and viruses. After collecting this kind of malicious code, we share these files to the Korean antivirus company. Although this system works well, but have some limitations. Because with this system, we cannot detect the major cyber attack symptom. It is a matter of course, because this system is a kind of low interaction honeypot. And with this system, we cannot collect web-based malware. But web-based malware is very prevalent in global. And hackers are not easily fooled by a honeypot like this type. And also, there were several ICT environment changes. As you know, BYOD and mobile application market and virtualization, big data is a popular keyword nowadays. And social network services are prevalent also in Korea. So we are seeking new approaches. One of them is to collecting malicious URL of SNS and website. Recently, hackers spread malicious code via specific websites, including popular search words. So we are trying to collect malicious URL with APIs provided by such websites. For example, NHN, Daum in Korea. NHN is similar to Baidu in China and Google's in US. The other approach is to malicious mobile applications from private market, because the mobile application, malicious mobile application based on Android is prevailing also in Korea. So we are preparing basically the mobile application crawler. After crawling the mobile application, we take a static and dynamic analysis and manual analysis we need. Also, we are planning to share the malicious applications with Korean antivirus company to update vaccine software. I believe that these issues is not only in Korea, but other countries also. So I hope a new idea to overcome these issues can be developed in this discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shin. Jaan? So next is the Estonian approach.
I have pleasure to talk to you and briefly tell our story. And I will start from the, can you switch it off? I will start from the fact what we are defending. And no, not the slides, but this microphone. Next slide. Next. And I will start from the history, then actually try to explain what we're doing now and where we are going in the future. And let's go to the next slide. Historical milestone, with this knowledge in Estonia starts from the from the institution that is 50 years old, of this institution of cybernetics. But first, this cooperation in the critical infrastructure happened between the banks. They understood that the enemy is a common. Nobody is actually gaining from the fact if their competitor will have the problems. So 98 was the first this kind of agreement. 2001 started another history. It was the Russian-speaking cybercrime getting together in Odessa, actually, and making the forum. It was called the Carter Planet, and it ended by 2004 with the Operation Firewall. So, and this invention of this forum, what they did was inventing the social feedback. So basically, they invented the Facebook of the criminals. And so it went, and so we learned, and the last, in 2007, we had a very good, actually, opportunity to test our skills and this community, what we had in Estonia. And when we did the last year, the government-wide exercise, then we get to the conclusion that cyber is so much already inside the society that no cyber problem will, okay, thank you. No cyber problem will remain in the cyber for long. It will spill it over. And the thing that we need in this case is managing the services. And what we are defending is actually our free time. the free time is the most important. All this critical infrastructure, what we are dealing with, is actually to free up our time. Why I actually put the pictures of the dancers? Because in my free time, I'm making a photograph of the belly dancers. There is around some 1,000 ladies in the Estonia who are doing this as a hobby. No, why not? Okay. Okay. And what we can actually lose is if we lose one part of our critical infrastructure, then the time that we will spend more is 3 or up to 4 times more. So if you think that actually you have less time, 1/4 of your time, what you will do with it? You will simply try to survive. You are not talking about the cyber things or stuff, actually. You are simply finding the food and keeping yourself alive. Where in Estonia we are right now with the dependability. We are 95% dependable on the IT system. It means that there are actually implications in the service provisioning in the critical infrastructure. In 30% of the critical services, this dependence is critical in the mean that if the IT system drops, the service also will drop. And in 10% of the cases, we do not have the low-tech backup anymore. So if we lose the IT system, we will not have the service anymore. And in e-governments, actually, we have been building this infrastructure of exchanging the information. And why in Estonia we are doing it is again to save the time. We simply do not have people, we not have the citizen to put as the bureaucrats. And thus we have to automate the things. And so we try to make this thing as simple, as reasonable as possible, and we automated the governance. I understand that it makes actually the perfect target. In defending in the legislation, there are actually 2 frame documents. One is this strategy, what we learned after 2007, and how we should organize the cyber defense. Another is the Emergency Act, and this is not actually cyber emergency, but this emergency in general. So if we have to restore the functioning of the society, or if we have the problem, the cyber is just one facet in the general emergency plans. We are the coordinator in the Estonian government, and we are coordinating in every day in the cross ministry this guidance is centered into the National Security Council. That is the direct council of the government office. But in case of the cyber attack, the 5 different ministries will enact it right away. So there must be actually one place actually who coordinates and gets this information through. Then when we are defending the infrastructure, the biggest problem here is that those processes that we try to defend in society, they are going through the many different type of institutions, and everybody must do their job. So private, government, the volunteers. So everybody must actually fulfill their roles. Otherwise, this process will have interruptions. And this is the complexity of the coordination is very great here. And yeah, so we have to deal with all the actors who are in the field. Here are the list of the different parts. So anyway, this cybersecurity is always actually this kind of team sport. It's not to the one individual agency. And what I think about this cybersecurity defense is that it's learning cycle. So basically, we are dealing with incidents, then we are putting down what we have learned into the rules and regulation or systems and architectures, and then we are implementing it. We are communicating to the outside people, and also getting the knowledge elsewhere until we reach the next incident. Each incident is the exam, and after exam you are making again the report, and you are repeating this cycle. Where we are going? So everywhere will be the smart things. Here is a picture of I think it's the Honda's picture. There are different kind of business reasons why we are getting the smart things. We are definitely getting the smart homes. In my country, living in the home, the most costly thing that you have in your home is air. If you actually insulated the house, is actually heating the air. And if you are able actually to smartly manage it, then you can slash your bill 3 times. Of course, people will take it. And then we have this critical infrastructure at your home. And if you think then what we have been doing so far, we have been teaching the specialist in the critical infrastructure, or the cybersecurity specialist, to be in each critical infrastructure. It is not possible to teach everyone to be the cybersecurity specialist in the future. It doesn't scale. So there must be actually the new cooperation models, how we deal with it. We must actually build some kind of other mechanism of the cooperating and making the cybersecurity the part of it. And what else I think in the future is that this process of the cybersecurity is manual, but the market and society around us is actually growing in technology exponentially. It's clear that we actually cannot compete it. And to be able to do it, to go out from this legal environment, we must actually be able to teach the computers to deal with the security, and for that we need actually the clear format, like digital signature is one example of it. So that was my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaan. So we heard, just quickly, summarize what we heard to national level of protection of CIIs. So it seems like there's a lot of work on defining the CIIs, dependency analysis, and really CIIs, and our life is really just heavily depending on those CIIs. And then analyze a legal perspective, also analyzing and defining the accountability of those, and then developing the partnership and all the collaboration programs. There are some introduction about the technical approaches, raising the level of hygiene, internet hygiene. So with that, we heard a lot of approaches, and I was going to ask a question, but in terms of the time, I would like to open the audience floor for a question. Yes, sir. 1, 2, and then unfortunately we don't have time. So gentlemen, and then you next.
Thank you very much. Assam Hadi Aluminium Bahrain. I think we have critical infrastructure, and looking at what you guys said, I think we're in a big trouble. We don't have a solution because you all spoke about the problems. We know the problems, but I don't see it very clear. I think The Korea had little that honeypot itself was kind of a good solution, but it's still not good enough. I still see we are really in dangerous situation. Putting policy, sharing, all these things doesn't solve the problem. We need a real solution. So I think I still don't see a solution to make sure that I sleep well at night, not thinking that somebody will attack our company later back. So I still don't see solution. I see only people point to problems, which are we aware of it. What's the solution? Thank you.
Anybody wants to respond to that?
Okay, I will try to do it. Basically, this conflict is constant, and this conflict is between the networks. So why we had actually started this cooperation is between the banks is that against you is the network of criminals. Same way here. But the trick is that the hierarchies do not beat the networks. You have to build your own network, so basically you have to build better working collective brain. So the cooperation is the answer. You will not sleep at the nights until you haven't lost all. Yeah.
But I agree, but what is, I mean, what you just said now is everybody trying to isolate the SCADA system or the critical infrastructure separately from everything else, putting all the nodes around it, making sure they're testing, intruding, total assessment, everything is still there is thing. Because reason is that if you look at it, if your system's already there and being infected, when you try to do whitelisting, you can't, because the virus or the malware or the stucknet becomes part of your whitelist, as is okay. So the question is that what kind of technology we have at the moment is to not to remedy only, it's also to protect, making sure that, because we always look at remedies, we look at solutions to fix things, and looking for root cause, how to make sure we fix these things so we don't have a problem there. I don't see that answers.
Right. So I think there are a lot of discussions last couple, panelists that there are risks, and you can't fix everything. So it's really a matter of managing the risks. And I think, Zahri, you have some programs that.
I tend to agree with your view, right? There's no one solution that fits all, right? I think you have to agree with that, And the technology keeps changing, right? And of course, the people out there, the one that would like to harm us, they also will look for whatever vulnerabilities, and sort of things, day and day. So I guess in terms of what we, as the one that should protect the nations or whatever the critical infrastructure, that we should do best whatever we can do. Of course, at the government level, for my view, right, we must have the policy in place, definitely. The legislation, the laws must be in place. And the programs also must be in place. And I guess the programs vary. As I mentioned just now, there's no one solution that fits all. But for example, in Malaysia, we mandated our critical infrastructure to have their organization to be ISO certified. The one that we mandated is the ISO 27011, ISMS, Infrastructure Management System. At least we know that our critical infrastructures, they are certified. As you know, right, being ISO 27001 certified, you are subject to audit every 2 years. Right? People come to your organization, the third party, at least. So I guess that's my views on this. Thank you very much.
Walid Zakaria, Egyptian CERT. My question to Mr. Zahri regarding the CII domains. You defined 10 domains of the CII in your country. These domains may be under another authorities, like transportations, water, maybe under other ministries. So what is the best way to deal with them is to sign something like one-to-one MOUs or establish a certain policy with them for regular assessment. From your experience, what is the best way to deal with the other entities? This is my first question. Second one,
very tough question.
Yeah, second one regarding the HoneyX project. You mentioned in the presentation that you have a 40,000 domestic IP. So what is the best way or the distribution plan of these IPs, if it is, you could share it with us? Is it a bulk, certain classes, or a distributed IPs on the certain regions or organizations, the price level, on the user level? And what is the best plan regarding the spreading of the IPs, if it is shareable?
Thank you, Walid, for the question, right? Well, from my perspective, right, my view, I always go to basic, which is we need to provide awareness. Awareness is not to all, from the school children to the parents, up to the policymakers. So we cover all aspects. And this program must be continuous. Continuous in the sense that it must do, all the times. We cannot stop. So that, we are able to reach the masses throughout the nations. That's my take, Brother Walid.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Mr. Shin, would you like to
There was another question regarding the HoneyX project. If you can explain the distribution of the IPs plan. You mentioned that you have a 40,000 domestic IP address on the HoneyX project. Is it a separate classes, or it is a distributed IPs on your own autonomous systems in your country, or it is outside the country? If you could explain to us what is the distribution plan of these IPs, I think it will be helpful.
Could you repeat the question before? I can just...
Yeah, can you repeat the question, Walid?
It's probably, because it's a technical question I heard, so maybe you would like to discuss.
Okay, I can make it one-to-one.
Yeah, one-to-one.
There's a session. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.